पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनि नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Slightly indisposed, you have to tolerate. Several wonderful points made here. It says, thereafter within a very few days, Maharaj Chitraketu, he attained the shelter of Anantadeva. He chanted very focused way the mantra given to him, and he achieved what he needed in life. So sometimes we are wondering why it takes so long for all of us. Actually, Sushushubhis Takshanat. The Bhagavatam says, Takshana, that moment, you can achieve Krishna consciousness by very strictly following. Here Prabhupada uses the word rigidly executing devotional service. Dhruva Maharaj also executed devotional service in a very rigid, focused way. It's only then that we can connect with the absolute. This is about from the relative connecting to the absolute. Relativities, they relativize your living. It means it cannot remain absolute. The whole idea is to jump out of the relativity. Fix yourself in the absolute, unshaking. That's why it's called dhruva. Fixed. Kutastam aksharam uchyate. Krishna describes that. Kutastha. Asta means fixed. Akshara doesn't change. Two types of people in the 15th chapter Krishna says. Kshara and Akshara. Kshara akshare evacha. Krishna is explaining, and he's saying, I am beyond the Akshara and Akshara. Therefore, ato asmi loke vedecha pratita purushottama. So, to become Akshara, to be situated in the absolute truth, is a potential and a capacity every spirit soul has. Because you are of the nature of the absolute, your spirit. But somehow because you are very tiny, you can get swept away by matter. So we have to manage matter and spirit in the conditioned stage. In order to become fixed, we need to make sure that we are not in the relative. For that you need to be focused. Sadhana means focusing yourself to achieve the absolute while you are situated in the shaky relative situation. Relativities means this and that, always in a flux. You want to keep yourself fixed. So sadhana means you're trying to keep yourself fixed inside the relativity. It's actually difficult to do. It's difficult to do for the conditioned soul. But when he becomes very serious about getting the absolute, when he becomes serious about focus, focus happens when you are serious about the goal of life. When you really want it. Many things in the material world we become very focused and we get it. It's not that we don't know how to focus. We know very well how to focus. Sense gratification, we really focus. If you want to get something for your enjoyment, you will focus. You will get it. So it's not something you don't know how to do. It is just that it has not got so much importance. Therefore, there is no focus. There are so many other diversions and distractions of various types. And now in Kali Yuga, it is a world of distraction. For anything and everything you're distracted. So what do you mean by focus? That's what Prabhupada explains very nicely. Faith means Shraddha Shabde Vishwasya Kurile Sudrida Nischaya Krishna Bhakti Kohile Sarva Karma Krita Hoya. This focus and faith are both our cousin brothers. If you are having faith, you are focused. Prabhupada defines faith as a complete conviction, Krishna Bhakti Koile Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. Everything is achieved successfully for me if I perform bhakti. That conviction is called faith. That faith you perform. When you perform, then you are focused. So we are building faith, Adau Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangata Bhajana Kriya Anartha Nivritti, like that. According to the level of the faith, we also have focus. The greater the faith that is built inside, the greater is the focus on the goal. And the greater is the focus on the goal, the less is the involvement in any relativity. Or the relativities won't disturb you at all. Or even if they attack you, you don't get disturbed. That's your fixed. This is what we are all trying to attain. We are all trying to remain fixed in Krishna consciousness. The process of doing that is called sadhana. And there is no other way of doing it. Krishna himself is advocating that. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. What is he telling? Perform sadhana. Why is he become my devotee and immediately he is telling Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru? I used to wonder why you are talking about all this small detail. Well, lofty, become my devotee, observe yourself me, do namaskar for me. Suddenly, so different. Why? Because he's telling it can be attained only through sadhana. You start from doing Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru. Worship me in my deity form. Do namaskaram to me. So all these are very important for us to become fixed in the absolute. When you become very rigidly capable of executing it and having importance for it, then you can be taken seriously by Krishna. Right? Sadhana means you have to show seriousness, focus. Don't do it just like a routine function. It is a routine, but it is not a routine. It is done routine because it is sadhana, but it is not one of those routine things that you do in the material world because you are routinely trying to fix in the absolute. And once this catches on, if you get the connection, then you are fixed. Now, how focused way you are able to do it, that much quickly it will happen. It is diluted, then it takes longer time. It is focused, it can happen immediately. Prabhupada is known to have said that, he said in 18 days I can take the whole world and make Krishna conscious. But you people are not ready, he said. You're not ready. He said this after he saw them all sleeping in the class. Then he said, in spite of the devotees, the Krishna conscious movement is spreading all over the world. Prabhupada obviously was a person who was far ahead. And he was asking everybody to come fast, join. So, there are devotees who are examples of how they are very fixed. It's all about material attachment and material association and material life. Although some people think it is very harsh for you to be doing these things, saying these things. A person who is really interested in something beyond. That's what I say, it's meta. Meta means beyond. If you want a meta life and not just settle down for a meta universe or a different imaginary verse, if you want a real metaverse, you must go beyond. If you want to really go beyond. Here, Chitraketu does that. You must understand, Chitraketu hit on target. Very focused. I must get it. Nothing else. You see, just get it. Prabhupada was a person like that. I have to go and spread it all over the world. That was his focus. It is the direction of my Guru. It is what all the Parampara Acharyas want. It's what Lord Chaitanya wants. Prithvite ache jata nagaradi gram sarvatra prachar hoibe moranam. He believed it. It will happen. And one of his god brothers gave lecture saying that Prithvite ache jata nagaradi gram means Bengal, all the gramas and this thing. Why Prithvi? Whole world, it's not possible. He didn't have that understanding. And Prabhupada in the class afterwards became a little disturbed. He said, how you can change? It's mentioned Prithvi. So why is he telling that it's only Bengal grams and this thing? It is not correct. It is mentioned here, Prithvi. And he is known to have said, Krishna will empower some fool and do. What can't Krishna achieve? He is known to have said, some fool will be empowered by Krishna to do it. And he had come as a grahastha with his son for the class. And he saw thought like that and went. Then people noticed this person got focus. He is just a grahastha with a child. That he knows that this will happen. Because it is mentioned by the Supreme Lord. He stood out in his understanding from everybody else. At that time also. No, it's correct. It will happen. At that time he did not know he is the person who is going to do it also. But look at that connection. This person will do it because he knows it will happen, believes it. So do we believe that this process works? Do you believe that there is a spiritual world? Do you have deep conviction that you can go there? That is, what is your pulse we have to see. What is really your pulse? Actually, many times we talk about many things, but we may not be really buying into it fully. That is why things are delayed. For Chitraketu, there was no problem about believing and understanding and having faith. That is why it happens within 3-4 days. He's already matured. He's already matured. He's on to the point of, he's ready, made himself ready. Here Prabhupada is mentioning that, and he's giving a very deep understanding of what that means by explaining the material opulence of Chitraketu, which becomes insignificant and not important at all in the face of Chitraketu's focus to achieve the Supreme Lord's shelter. It doesn't matter if he is opulent. Why? He is fixed. For a person who is fixed in the absolute, even if he indulges materially, it doesn't disturb him from the absolute. Because he knows it's a temporary indulgence. He knows fully well. This is what is the greatness about this pastime of Chitraketu. And even as Vritrasura, he is very focused. Inside an Asura's body, he is very focused on getting the final destination. There also he is teasing Indra and telling Indra, go ahead, take the weapon and kill me. I'll go back to Godhead and you will be here fighting for your seat and dancing with Ramba, Kilotama, Menaka and drinking Somarasa. but I am going back to Godhead. Why don't you do it fast? Kill me. That very much put Indra into very deep thinking. What am I doing? I am out of focus. This Asura is in focus. He is Vritrasura. He is ready to go back to Godhead, and he will go. Because I know this weapon was made for that. And Vishnu helped me to make that weapon. But Vishnu is using me to make the weapon to liberate him back to Godhead, and I will remain here. And I've asked him for that. So he's given me that. Why did I not ask him for going back to Godhead like Vritrasura? I didn't. And Vritrasura is pointing out that, go ahead, kill me, I go back to Godhead. So it become a very awkward situation for Indra. And for Vritrasura, it's an amazing situation. And he's an Asura. He's in a body of an Asura. So it's a very amazing situation because he is focused. That Chitraketu, although he's in the body of Vritrasura, is highly focused on getting the real goal of life. That's why he is not disturbed even by Vritrasura's body, nor is he disturbed by being Vidyadharapati. You must understand the exalted nature of Chitraketu. He is far above. He learnt a lesson. Chitraketu, life, if you trace of that soul, you can see what all stages he went through. Now he is attaining the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadramanki. He is achieving the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Before, what was he? He was a king who got 1 million wives. He tried 1 million times or even more to get a child. And Krishna was very determined not to give him a child. No, you're not getting it. You're not getting it. You focus on me. No, he didn't give it up. And he was a very attached householder. So attached to his son, to his new wife Kritadyuti, to his old wife, who gave birth finally out of the 1 million wives. That was he. And then they both together, Narada Muni and Angiri Rishi, gave him a powerful lesson. They made a whole drama and brought that child back into the body, made the child wake up and speak to the father and said, what father? Who are you? How do you know? How many fathers I've had? The shocking revelation to Chitraketu. And then he understood. And he refocused. He became a great devotee. Once that happened, that he became a devotee and started enjoying the bliss of the Absolute, then there is no returning back for him. Now he has become Vidyadharapati, even greater than what he was as Chitraketu Maharaja. But he is not lost focus. Then he becomes Vritrasura. After the curse of Parvati, Swarga apavarga narakeshu api tulyartha darshana. This is what Lord Shiva told Parvati. Your curse and all is simply useless. In front of all the rishis and sages, he is telling his wife in a very sober way, you cursed him, no. He just smiled, it is mentioned. He smiled. And Chitraketu also smiling after the curse. Because there's something that Shiva and Chitraketu know that Parvati did not know. What is that? You can send him anywhere, hell or heaven. He will continue to be a devotee. He is fixed in the Absolute. That's what happened. Narakeshu means he became Asura. And in Asura's body, he was fixed as Vritrasura. At Vidyadharapati, Swarga, he was fixed. He ultimately achieved. You throw them anywhere, they remain fixed in Krishna consciousness. This is the meaning of focus of a devotee. And this is the type of focus that is affordable for a devotee. Why? Because the object of your focus is Krishna. Only if it is Krishna can it be so fixed. It cannot be so fixed even if it is Brahman. It cannot be so fixed if it is demigods. It cannot be so fixed. The fact is that the object of your fixation is Krishna. That is why you become so steady and so focused. Other objects of meditation don't afford this type of a fixation. So Chitraketu is an amazing example that he is already fixed and he achieved very easily the shelter of Ananta. So we are dealing with, in the material world, we deal with matter and spirit. And only for us it is matter and spirit. Because we have enjoying tendency. We look at God's creation as something that we can enjoy, it will become matter for you. The moment your attitude becomes what I can get out of it from my enjoyment, it turns to be matter. Otherwise, everything comes from the Supreme Lord cannot be matter. It has to be spirit only. Isn't it? Krishna is saying, although he is making this distinction in Bhagavad Gita, he is saying in Bhagavad Gita that, what is that shloka? Everything that comes from me, both material and spiritual, I am the origin. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattas sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajate mam buddha bhava samanvita. So, for the conditioned soul, he is given a chance to even enjoy materially. That time the Lord's manifestations become material for him. But for a pure devotee, Prabhupada is saying, nothing is material. Because he can see everything in connection with Krishna. Therefore there is no question of material and spiritual. So even if he has opulence, he is only seeing it as belongs to Krishna. And Krishna has given me this facility. In Krishna consciousness, in full Krishna consciousness, I use the facility. I am not feeling this is meant I should be austere and all that. He is not feeling like that. He is going ahead with it because he is in full Krishna consciousness. There is no necessity unless he has to be an example for somebody else. Otherwise, he is perfectly fixed nicely, it doesn't matter. He is able to handle opulence without getting attracted to it. Without getting attracted to it. It's very important to know. It doesn't mean that every time there's a devotee he should be poverty stricken and famished like Sudama he should be. People get the impression that devotee they're always very poor and poverty stricken and no food to eat and all that. I shouldn't get that impression. There are devotees who are very well to do. Pundarika Vidyanidhi was coming carried in a palanquin. He was lying down like that on us. So rich, his ordinary vehicle is a palanquin carried by 4 people. I heard in some other places also there was hookah he was smoking on the palanquin. And seeing this, Gadadhar and Mukunda, they became, what is this? This is the person who is supposed to be a devotee. How can I believe this? And then he understood that this is what he is thinking. So just you wait. And he chanted these shlokas from the Bhagavatam. Aho bakiyam stanakala kutam. How Bakasura got the mercy of Krishna. Kamva dayalum sharanam tvameva. Whom else will I surrender to than such a merciful person? When he heard that shloka, Pundarika Vidyanidhi became a different person. he just got into that mood of separation from Krishna. And they could see that Pundarika Vidyanidhi became a completely different person. He was torn by remembrance of Krishna, separation of Krishna. He just tore the pillow and scattered all this thing, and he was Krishna was rolling. Only then he could see that, oh my gosh, this is another side of this person. I did not know. So at that time, all other things that he saw became paled into insignificance compared to the focus of Pundarika Vidyanidhi in terms of Krishna. So in the material world, we don't see all these things often, even if a person is very fixed in Krishna consciousness. Why? Because you will not appreciate it anyway. You can't appreciate it so easily. So pure devotees of the Lord, they don't show their spiritual opulence. They just control it and keep quiet, because ordinary people don't know, and they will even misunderstand it. Because they would misunderstand it, and because they would not know, you will see that they refrain from exposing themselves, showing. So, material and spiritual, for a pure devotee of the Lord, everything is spiritual. Prabhupada is taking the example of building a temple. Even the bricks and stones are spiritual. So right now we are doing that. How many of us look like that at the temple? The brick and the stones. Not proper brick, not good quality, very bad work. We definitely are looking at it materially. And we get into a lot of problems because of that. And that is the way it will be. It's purification. It's purification for you. But imagine that these stones and these bricks, they build the house of the Lord. How can they be material? Like Prabhupada is explaining here, the deity is made out of stone, but the deity is not stone. Pratima nahi tumi sakshat prajendra nandana. You are not a statue. You are Sakshat Krishna himself. How do we understand this? When we stand in front of the deity, how do we understand this? If you look at the deity, oh, this is made of wood, oh, there is a crack here, oh, here, this is not correct. If this is, you will be lost. You will be lost. You will not be able to see. Sometimes people see only these things. What is this, because you are highly materialistic, you are very unfortunate. You can't see. But in India, many people come in front of the deity, bow down, and if you cannot appreciate what they are seeing, what they are feeling, their emotions towards the deity, if you are not used to this culture, you will be thinking, what is wrong with these people, mad guys, looking at some statue and bowing down and waving some fire and some smoky stuff, and these guys are cuckoo. There's something wrong with them. Definitely you'll think like that. Definitely you don't understand the culture. So the Mughals didn't understand that. What the hell are you guys doing? Let's bulldoze the whole temple. Let's take all the important things, the gold, the jewelry. The rest is all useless. They dumped the deities. They crashed the whole temple. Took away all that beautiful, very marauding, brash, barbarians. You can't understand the subtle feelings of devotees towards the Lord who has manifested himself in the form of a devotee. Highly materialistic. They destroyed 40,000 temples during their reign. And there's a list of those 40,000 temples. They just bulldozed it down. Destroyed it. Took away the wealth. Can you imagine the feelings of the people? How it would have been? And crores of Hindus were killed, just killed for being religious, for doing this thing, worshipping the deity. And they were not able to protest because they are very highly cultured. They don't protest like this. Their culture is so highly sophisticated because they are moving towards the absolute truth in full focus. How can people who don't know anything about these things understand? They are thinking you guys are some age-old dinosaur of a people practicing some voodoo magic. That's what they are thinking. It's highly sophisticated thinking in terms of consciousness. They are saying everything is spiritual, everything belongs to you, my Lord. The sophistication is inside. The advancement is inside. It's not on the outside. On the outside, they are simple farmers and keeping, good agricultural fields and having requirements that they need, basic ones, very nicely, abundantly. But internally, they are very sophisticated. Why? Because they are in association with the absolute truth, the most sophisticated. But they can't make out these invading, marauding, barbaric people. What are you doing? Take the gold, take the jewelry. What are you doing? Worshipping the cow, eat it. This is a completely different culture. They're asking, what are you doing something to the cow? And you're saying you're poverty stricken, cut it and eat it. That's the type of culture that is brought in. That's the type of culture a lot of Indians follow even today. That's the type of culture our educational system is. You don't understand what is spirit, what is spiritual. This takes quite some education and sophistication and culture to understand the wonderful instructions given in the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavat. It's high class sophistication. Because a person who is advancing towards the absolute truth will automatically have high class culture and sophistication. He's moving towards the absolute truth, towards Krishna, towards the Supreme Godhead. And he's cultivating, he's getting purified. So the more it happens, the more you become focused, the more you become mature in Krishna consciousness. Chitraketu is a mature spirit soul, completely focused on the absolute truth. He achieved the absolute. The goal of life is to achieve this destination. It's not about hanging around here and worrying about my child and my house and my earnings and my popularity and my Facebook and my numbers I get and everything alone. This is how Maya tricks you to worry about the wrong things and spend your time, and then you come back again. Punarapi jananam punarapi maranam. You will come here again to do the same thing and again to do the same thing. So Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam are telling us, no, it's not what you're meant for. And all these illustrations of great devotees and their wonderful history is meant for us to know that we can't live in the temporary permanently. There is no permanent existence in the temporary. That's why repeatedly there is pralaya. Repeatedly you die. To tell you there is no permanency in any of these situations. You will constantly get ragged. Why? By time. By time you will get ragged constantly because there will be annihilation. There will be creation, there will be maintenance, there will be destruction. Creation, maintenance. So you are going to get ragged continuously by the ending. There's constant ending for that. Every time you begin, it will end. The sadness when you begin is, it's going to end. And then they'll philosophize, everything has got an end in this world. Somebody will say something. And they'll say, it's okay, let us do it. Somebody will get some great philosophy and they'll continue to do it. No, it's mentioned here, there is such a place where there is no end. Avinashi tu tat vidhi, yena sarvam idam tatam. You are Avinashi, who is occupying this body, soul. There is no destruction for you. Parastasmat tu bhavo anyo vyakto vyaktata sanatana yahasa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati. There is no vinasha for the spiritual world. And for you there is no vinasha. You belong there. You don't belong to the place where constantly there is vinasha for you. Of your body. You don't belong here, obviously. And why are you getting ragged by constant vinasha? To make you understand that this is not your place. Means you cannot settle down. You cannot settle down. As soon as you settle down, you die. And then again you are born. And again you try to settle down. As soon as you settle down, you die. Isn't it? Can't you see the program? It is meant to disturb you constantly. Krishna is saying that dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmanah. It is designed for misery. And if you try to be happy in that misery, you're a big fool. I'm very happy, I've done this, I've done that, so what is there, I'm successful. If you look at it from the viewpoint of Bhagavad Gita, you're a big fool. Actually. But nobody here dares say that to you. Why? They're also in that foolish boat along with you. And they're telling you, teach me how to do that. And you become a great hero and you die. If you zoom out and see the plan of the world, you'll see it's just meant to rag you. Meant to make you understand and focus on the absolute. The day you achieve that, you're really intelligent and you're really successful. If you listen to the standards of this world and the people of this world and the great leaders of this world, you're doomed. As per Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavad. But nobody will tell you this. Only a person like this, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, will boldly tell that to everybody in this world. And go around doing it fearlessly everywhere. Speaking the absolute truth. No relativizing the truth as it is. Take it or leave it. If you don't want it, if you want to carry on in this mess, go ahead. The choice is yours. So Prabhupada's words, the Bhagavatam's words, challenge your intelligence. Are you going to do it or are you going to sit down here? Knowingly you're going to indulge in the absolute, in the temporary, sacrificing the absolute. You become very uncomfortable once you get to know this. You can't be truthful to yourself. If you continue to do what you're doing, have to change. And you have to focus. And you have to achieve the end. That's what Chitraketu has done. Chitraketu is the story of a soul who successfully did it. You can trace his history from when he was an attached householder looking for a child till he becomes Chitraketu, the great devotee, and he becomes Vidyadharapati, becomes Vritrasura. All these things is different lifetimes. He becomes perfect, goes back to Godhead. This is not the story of somebody very great and is nothing to do with me. It is your story. It's for you to know. Because your story also, everybody, every soul has got a story of how he goes back to Godhead. It's illustrious. Saga of the soul. Story of the soul. Right? So, these are inspiration for us. How he has achieved the shelter of Lord Ananta, how he physically meets with Ananta. All this is described here very nicely. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Any question or comment? Yeah.
The Bhagavad Gita second chapter we get about the difference between spirit and matter. So we get some logical understanding. Okay, spirit means go beyond time, matter means under time, and it is low depth. It's like that we get some understanding about it logically. Now we hear about this thing, like this brick is also a spiritual thing. Then all our logics which we read is checked.
Don't worry, it's not for you. You continue to see bricks as bricks.
Even for Prashadam, we just say that it is.
I told you it is meant for a conditioned soul. The prescription is meant for a conditioned soul. The prescription of the doctor is meant for the sick man. It is not a prescription meant for the normal man. So when the Bhagavad Gita is telling you, Aham sarvasya prabhu matta sarvam pravartate, you should understand, I am sick. Take the prescription, understanding you are sick. Don't try to jump onto the platform of the normal man. You are not.
This knowledge, just pushes this. When we read it,
Yeah, now it is only knowledge, like you rightly mentioned. It's not your realization. Your reality is brick, it's matter. So use that brick in the service of the Lord. That's the best you can do. That is sadhana. Sadhana means I use matter in the service of the Supreme Spirit. That's called sadhana. But as you perform your sadhana, you understand there's no difference between this matter and the Supreme Spirit. That is maturity of your sadhana. What is described here is the mature status of your sadhana. Right now you stand where you are. You may have knowledge of this, but your reality is this. I will donate bricks. With my hard-earned money, I donate brick for building the temple. That is my reality now. Do it. Nobody is asking you to become self-realized and look at the brick and say this is actually deity and to go on an emotional trip with it artificially. Don't do it. Because you're not there. You're not there. You do, somebody else may be there in that situation. You are not in that position. You do, buy the brick and give it. Please, let this brick be part of this. I have done something for the Lord. My Lord, please. He will give you the realization to see something higher. By virtue of our service to the Lord, we get purified and are able to see. It is like a reward for performing sadhana with an eagerness. Ultimately, what are we trying to do by all these things? We are opening up our original natural love for Krishna. That's what has to be opened up. All these things don't matter much. But this is all on the path to developing pure love for Krishna. Once a pure love is developed, then everything looks as belonging to Krishna. Ishavashyamitam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat. So till we are not able to see like that, we remain as a sadhaka. Why not? So don't prematurely promote yourself. Remain where you are and gradually you'll rise. Mohini Satyabhama, if something is done to Krishna or his property or his devotees, one is not supposed to keep quiet. Something must be done. Why the leaders that time kept quiet, did not protest? It is not that they did not protest. The type of protest they did was too cultured for these barbarians. How can a Brahmana protest? He'll only tell through knowledge, don't do this because it is like this, like this. If the Brahmana has to become a Kshatriya and he has to hold weapons and he has to match you, that was not maybe possible because the Kshatriyas were of very low quality. The Kshatriyas fell down from their position also. The Kshatriyas were not powerful enough. They were not noble and dharmic enough. They were Kali Yuga Kshatriyas. So it didn't happen. And these people are not Kshatriyas who are attacking. They are barbarians. They are not Kshatriyas. They are not going to follow some code of law for war and all that. They just came to pillage and rummage and get whatever they want. They took the women. They raped the women. They killed the children. They took all the gold and the wealth. How these people are Kshatriyas? They are not Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas don't do these type of things. Kshatriyas fight only dharmic wars and with proper conditions and everything. They are very noble. So these guys are, low class barbarians. So how will even if they had good Kshatriyas, how will they react to these people? This is Kali Yuga. So that's what happened. It's not that there was no leadership. The leadership somehow cannot stand up to these type of things, not prepared. They were not prepared, a highly cultured society. And the invading people also valued the culture of these Indians. Many of them, many of the little sensible people there could understand this. But the great fact is that it was retained in spite of 1,000 years of such invasions, plundering, destroying, killing, and dumbing down the culture like nothing. Even then, it has survived. That is why Prabhupada's movement is very important. Because he is speaking the original root culture. This is where it grew from. Right? So it's not that they couldn't protest. They did protest. They protested in their own way, but they were not powerful enough. And the people were just barbaric people. They didn't understand. They didn't give answers within the culture or within a format. They had no culture. So there's no question of your protest being successful. Today maybe people have some sort of a value for certain things. They look back on history and see how all of these barbaric people were actually religious oriented people, a lot of them. The Muslims. And the entire British crowd was a Christian evangelical program underneath. It's all Christians and Muslims, actually speaking. I may not be making a politically correct statement here, but it is that type of religion. So these things are all to be understood here. It's not only about the understanding of who wins and who is protesting and not. It's about what is the truth. And many of the Indians understood that the best way to do this is to look after your own small thing and look after my spiritual life. And some of them stayed away completely and practiced their own thing. Because that's the goal of their life. So some vestige of it remains. Okay? Any other question or comment?
There are 4 questions.
Oh, 4 questions, I'm sorry. If something is done to Krishna, Sudha Paramesh. Regarding opulences, if we have opulence to serve Krishna, but because of being dependent and put in a situation where we are unable to use opulence, what can be done? Well, that's a very general question, but I can guess what it is. If you're put in a situation where you're not able to use your opulence, what can be done? I shouldn't be addressing these things publicly to you. I can tell you what to do separately. But sometimes we are in such situations that we are in a dependent situation, like you have rightly put it. We can only go by good appeal and proper mature conversation and understanding. That is the proper procedure. Sama, Veda, Dana, Danda. Don't adopt the extreme process, but try your best to have a conversation and an understanding. In a materialistic world where people have value for opulence in a material way, very difficult for them to appreciate that you will give away your opulence into something else which is of more value to you than the opulence. It's very difficult to understand there's something more valuable than money for people of this world, especially with the type of cultures that are prevailing. Of course, some people are now talking about it. But what is of value? That looks like definitely you have something more valuable than the material opulence, to which the material opulence should be given. So, this is a sophisticated understanding you have, but maybe your partners or maybe the associated people do not have that. So, definitely it's a challenge, and because you're a dependent. So, sometimes we have to pray to the Lord intensely, and if the Lord so desires, many things can happen. And if you were in a capable position, then you can do things that Tirumangai Alvar did. That opulence is meant for the Lord here. You don't agree with me, I take it from you. By force. You're not in such a position, I can understand. But sometimes people do that. I've seen devotees do that. By force they do it. Of course it should be done like that. Ruthlessly they do it. And I am as a leader in ISKCON, I do that sometimes. Because what does it matter? But you may not be in such a position, you can't do. Tirumangai Alvar did it. You can see how he did it. With all intelligence and bhakti and force and everything together. And the Lord granted it. It happened. Today if you go and see in Srirangam, one whole prahara is done by him. You can see the remnants of his contribution even today. So, we pray to Krishna that it becomes possible for you. Divya Rupa Nitai, Maharaj, spiritual life, devotional service, going back to Krishna, is it sophisticated or simple? What does it mean by sophisticated that you are mentioning? Sophisticated means just like you are physically present in the campus and you are not here now for Bhagavatam class. As far as it goes for you, it's simple sophistication. Anyway, that jokes apart. Sophistication is not only material gross sophistication, that's what I'm trying to say. Richness, opulence, so-called lavish, flamboyant exhibition of your richness, all that shows you're very poor, spiritually very poor. Why? Because you have to resort to these things to attract attention from people and show them I'm great. So you're a very weak person. When you see flamboyant richness exhibited, I feel this guy is a hollow fellow. He's very weak. If you blow him, he'll fall down. Pooh, he'll fall down actually. He's very weak. But that's what in India you will see when these people came. They could see that these fellows will not listen to us. You can kill them, you can destroy their temples, they'll go worship. It's very deeply rooted opulence from inside. It's a deep-rooted opulence from inside. The Britishers left because they failed in colonizing India actually. They couldn't colonize like they did in other places. But they learned big lessons from India. Big lessons from India. Of course, they made a lot of damages to the culture, to the people, to the thinking. Because they can't change this Krishna conscious culture, which is very deep. Which is very deep. That is what I mean by sophistication. When a person becomes a devotee, he becomes more and more sophisticated. And this is real sophistication, internally. You can feel it. You can feel that I am much better off than I was before. In what way am I better off? In my internal makeup. I feel different. I can see it. I am sophisticated. I'm come to a different type of a culture. This is what the devotee went to Prabhupada and asked. Prabhupada, what happened to me? In 1.5 years, I was a drunken bum in the streets. And today, I'm getting up in the morning chanting Hare Krishna. I feel completely different inside. He went to Prabhupada and said, how did it happen? And Prabhupada turned to him and told him, I made you fortunate. I brought good fortune for you. This is the contribution of Prabhupada. He makes you sophisticated inside. And nobody else can do it. You can give billions of dollars to do it, you will not get it. But you will get it from the association of a pure devotee, free. Even today it's available. You read his books, you follow his instructions, you will become sophisticated. And you can feel it. I'm a different person. I can feel this energy from inside me. There's enthusiasm inside me. A spiritual awakening inside me. You have to put your finger on it. You have to experience it to know that. That's why people stick around in the Krishna conscious movement. In spite of so many other problems that may have organizationally, institutionally. They just stick around because the nectar is there inside this organization. Because of Prabhupada being there. Right? So you should taste that sophistication. By chanting Hare Krishna in the company of devotees, by discussing Bhagavat in the company of devotees, eating prasadam with devotees, sharing relationships of love, sharing relationships of understanding the absolute, it's very different. It's not anything to do with matter and the money and the value and the positions, everything that you have. There is something else that ties devotees together. That is very subtle. And there you'll find the sophistication. That is the nectar. That's what people go for in the association of devotees. People come everywhere. They recognize a devotee. Immediately they want to sit down and talk with you. And you want to talk to a devotee. Who are you? Where are you? What are you coming from? How did you become a devotee? All that. Why? It's about sophistication. It's about internal sophistication. It's a highly valuable thing that Prabhupada has done to human society. So we should culture that. We should develop that. Where is the line between, where is the line between, this is from Mahalila, Madhavi, Devidasi. Where is the line between being ritualistic and being rigid in KC? In household life, it is expected that we should be flexible in our sadhana. Flexible in our sadhana doesn't mean instead of chanting 16 rounds, you can chant 8 rounds. Flexible in our sadhana would mean that I couldn't chant in the morning because I had to do this. So I chanted in the afternoon. Or I chanted late night. Okay, flexibility. Flexibility never means hitting the principles. Flexibility means in details, not in principles. You don't touch the principle. You can flex the detail. Naturally it will require it in a grahastha atmosphere. You cannot be the same brahmachari type of person, single man that you were there earlier. That I am free, have no responsibility, tra la la la, and I do what you can't, because there will be somebody hanging on to you. Hello, why did you not come here? When will you come? What? I know, you have to. Your independence is lost. You have to. So that's flexibility. You have to be flexible. But not at the cost of your sadhana. Nowhere it is mentioned that you should liquidate your sadhana, dilute your sadhana, because it's required to do it like this. Then you won't get the benefit of Krishna consciousness. That is the line. You asked me to draw a line. This is the line I'm drawing. This is what I understand from reading Prabhupada's books. There is no further shifting of the line. Prabhupada already shifted the line. You must understand that Prabhupada said 64 rounds you must chant every day. This is what he went to America and said first. Then he knew these fellows never do it. He'll never do it. Then he made it 32 rounds. Then he said, still they will not do. Then he said 16 rounds, nothing less than that. Minimum you should chant 16 rounds. Then Prabhupada made a comment. In India they can do more, 25 they should do. This conversation is there. Right? Now we have already shifted that also. We are chanting only 16 rounds, by the way. Actually 16 rounds is meant for Westerners, he said, for them concession. Here, if you don't chant 16 rounds, Prabhupada said, you're an animal, don't talk to me about him. In a conversation, Prabhupada is saying. See, Prabhupada drew the line. Prabhupada drew the line. Somebody asked Prabhupada, what Janmashtami time and all, sometimes we cannot chant 16 rounds because we are working 48 hours, cooking this thing, cleaning that thing, this thing, everything. So he said, chant the next day. If you cannot chant the next day at all, then he is an animal. Don't talk to me about him. Finished. Prabhupada stopped the conversation. He drew the line. He drew the line, said, beyond that, don't talk to me. He's an animal. He used the word. Can you believe that? So don't compromise on the principles. The details you may tweak. Like Prabhupada said, chant the next day. He's given a tweak, flexibility on the detail. Normally, you should do it every day. Abnormal situations, fine, it's okay. It's practical. It happens. You cannot do it sometimes and all that. You don't have to kill yourself and die in self-guilt or something. You have to be practical. You have to keep up your enthusiasm and chant Hare Krishna. You should come back to the normal as quick as possible. Then it is safe. But if you're stuck in the abnormal forever and make it the normal, then it's dangerous. Then it's dangerous. Red light should be flashing all the time then. Right, that's it. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki.